Next thing that we want to do is when we enter any value and hit the create button, it should create that category. How do we do that? If we go to our observed view, you can see we have both the buttons with type submit, and if we scroll up, we have that in a form method post. So we can create a post action method for observed. We'll copy the get action method, paste it here. With ASP.NET Core, you need to define this is a post action method, and you can do validate anti-forgery token to maintain the security. Then inside post here, we can retrieve the category object that was posted, so we'll get that in OBJ. We do not need this line anymore. Now what we have to check here is the model state valid or not. The model state.isValid check if you have certain data annotations. It checks right here that those data annotations meet the requirements or not. This is not only limited to EF Core, but it is related to data annotations, so I will not go into much details there. I have covered this extensively in the ASP.NET Core free course as well. If the model state is valid, we will check here if obj.categoryID is equal to 0. If this is 0, this means this is create. Else, this is an update. So what we have to do to create a new category object that we received right here. Let me remove this. In order to add anything, EF Core makes it really simple again. We have our DB context. In there, you see we have the add method. You can use it directly and we can pass the object. What EF Core does is it automatically tracks what type of object it is. It will find out that this is a category object and it performs a create operation on the category. You can of course use this, but there is another way in which you can explicitly define that this object is of type categories and you should perform an add operation right there. I like this approach because this makes sure I do not make any type mistakes. So right now it has not pushed the changes to the database. Here we are telling DB context that this is what you should do. Then in the else part, let's tell the EF Core that if the ID is not 0, you need to update the category object that you received. So on categories, they have update as well, and we have to pass the object that needs to be updated. Based on primary key, it automatically finds out which are the properties that it has to update. Now, if you remember what we did in migration is first we added the migration and then we hit update database to actually go and push those migrations to our database. With creating or saving also, it is a two-step process. First, we are telling EF Core or DB context that you have to add this object or you have to update this object. Then we need to call another method on our DB context, which is save changes. Once this method is executed, then whatever are the pending changes, they all get executed to the database. Once we save the changes, we want to return back to the index page where we were looking at the list. So we can just use return, redirect to action, and we can use name of here. Name of, we want to redirect to our index action. And in case if the model state is not valid, right here we want to return back to the view. And when we return back, we'll pass the object so we can see what are the errors. That being said, let's give this a try and see how things work. We'll also switch back while this is loading. We'll go to debug, window, output, and let's take a look at the queries as well. Great, let me clear this off. We'll go to our category. There we go. This should load the select star. Let's go back. Let's try to edit cat2. If you go back, there should be another execution. You can see here the query is select top 1 from the table name where we have our criteria. That is spot on. Let me change this to cat5 and hit the update button. Great, the record was updated. Let's go back, and right here you can see the query that was fired. We had the update query and we have the parameter for category ID. After we do that, we have the select all query because we were loading all of the categories on index page. So you can see how EF Core is doing all the query logic and manipulation behind the scene, and you just have to use very simple methods to perform CRUD operation. That being said, the only thing that remains is deleting a category. Let's take a look at that in the next video.